It's power rankings. And I don't know if you know this about me, Casino, but I
Look
love
at that. Look at that
pirates.
baby muscle.
I love pirates, Casino. I don't know if you know this about me.
I
I love
do.
all things
I
pirates.
actually do know that you love pirates. I mean, we like some of the same shows that are very pirate forward.
So this week's power rankings are
Ooh.
pirate themed as we talk about the Only Sports Podcast power rankings.
Sadly, the Bucks are not in it.
Yeah, the Bucks are on neither of our power rankings right here.
I took a guess in the dark. They're not on yours.
No, they are not, sadly. But who is on yours? And you actually did remember to put 10 this
Put
time.
10, yeah.
So I am
I
proud of
remembered
you.
the Vikings this time. The
Yeah.
Vikings were remembered.
So your number, but you didn't remember the Titans.
Dang it. I was literally thinking that joke as I was taking my sip. Damn it.
Your number 10 team, however, is not a Titan or a Buck. It is a bird, and that bird is the Arizona Cardinals.
They are scrappy, man. There's a lot of those teams right there at that like 6-win mark. And out of those, all those teams, I like the Cardinals. I think they're scrappy. Yes, this is going to shock you as we're going to go through this. I do not have the Packers
I don't either.
on the top
Spoiler
10.
alert. Yeah.
And I don't have them on that. I mean, they were right there with the Cardinals, but I like how the Cardinals are playing. I like what Kyler Murray's doing. And I mean, their running back, why am I blanking?
James Conner.
James Conner. He looks phenomenal, and nobody's talking about him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like this team. This team's doing good. They hit the 10 mark.
Yeah. Next up, Casino, your number 9 pick is, if I can get to it, also the theme of this for everybody listening, or we are on a treasure hunt right now, Casino. So this is the map telling us where the treasure leads.
You're getting good at this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But your number 9 team, the Los Angeles Chargers.
I think they got something special there with Harbaugh and Herbert. They're finally getting some things clicking on offense, and I enjoy watching them. And I think they are sneaky good. I'm going to use the word sneaky.
Our first sneaky. Yeah, buddy.
It's a double sneaky.
Double sneak. Your number 8 team, Casino, as we still go looking for the treasure, is the Washington Commanders, which shocks me that they're this low on your list.
They dropped a bit. Yes, you got to be able to win those games tight. Yes, I think that Ertz had that first down. But I am just a little bit more impressed with a few other teams right now. They're not out of my top 10. I still have them winning. I have them winning that division, but it's going to be close now. But they're doing really good.
Your number 7 team, Casino, is, I should really have this pulled up, but I don't. The Minnesota Vikings, a team you forgot to put on your last list.
Good teams win close games, and that's what they did. And they won a close game with having kind of a stinker on the field. You know, when you throw 3 goal line interceptions, you don't win that game. 95% of the time, you don't win that game. They were able to figure a way out to win that game. They're looking good. They did get the tight end back. Why am I blanking on his name?
Hawkinson,
TJ Hawkinson. So they got him back. That's going to make them a little bit more dangerous moving forward. So good teams win close games, and you win ugly games. So that's where they're sitting.
Your next team, Casino, number what? This is your number 6 team, is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh man, do they just have grit? They just have a good fight in them, man. This team is. I picked obviously the Washington Commanders to be good this season, like most people did not. I had Jaden Daniels being good. I had the team being good. But I was wrong about the Steelers. I said the Steelers were going to be close to a 500 team, but I figured that they would miss the 500 spot by 1 game. I think they were going to be on the other half of that.
Yes.
So still winning games, but I didn't expect them to be as dominant as they are right now. They are definitely surging at the right time. Sneaky good team going into the playoffs. And I think they'll make the playoffs, and I think they'll turn some heads.
Also, another sneaky drop. Why you stealing
I don't
that
know.
would actually in our TikTok video, you asked me what my catchphrase would be. Probably sneaky. Probably
Yeah,
me saying sneaky.
sneaky.
Uh, but next up, Casino,
See, it's
your
it's tough to think about on the spot.
that is true. Your number 5, the Baltimore Ravens dropping significantly from last week.
Oh yeah. Their defense scares the living hell out of me. Their secondary scares the living hell out of me. I mean, Joe Burrow just dominated them over the top. Just absolutely dominated. And they they barely won that game. And honestly, they probably should have lost that game because there was some blatant face masks penalties that should have been called against the Ravens on Joe Burrow. Like there was two for sure. I think maybe even three on that last drive, just smoking. Like not like hitting his helmet or anything. Like it's pulling his face mask down with like that. The fact that they missed all of that blew my mind. So they've dropped. Yes, they won still, but man, that secondary is weak sauce. They got to pick it up.
Yeah, I would agree. That game had a lot of very egregious, like, especially where it's a league that protects quarterbacks, and it's like you're not going to protect potentially the second or third best quarterback in the league. Like that was, yeah, egregious. Your number 4 pick, Casino, is my boys, the Philadelphia
Fly
Eagles.
Eagles fly. They hit
Ye-
their stride and they're doing it. They're reversing what they did last year. They are looking outstanding right now. Jalen Hurts looks like an MVP in my book with what he's doing right now. Saquon Barkley finally, it looks like him and the offense have figured things out together, and that's really opened up his playbook. Not just give me the ball, I'm going to run. Like they're actually got really good developed plays with him. Um, I mean, hell, he's athletic as hell. Reverse reverse jump over, like whatever. Come on, man. This guy's
Re-
great.
Reverse hurdle.
There it
Reverse
is.
hurdle.
Thank you.
Your number 3 pick, Casino, is the Buffalo Bills.
The Buffalo Bills have moved up substantially over the last 3 weeks. They look great, and as I said last podcast, look out, Chiefs, because I do think the Bills will take the number one seed. If Buffalo, and I think that they will, if Buffalo beats the Chiefs this weekend, I think the Buffalo will win the number one seed overall.
Ooh, that is quite a take. But now, Casino, we're going to switch over from Casino's power rankings to my power rankings, leaving
We
you in suspense for what number 2 and number 1 is. So now, Casino, we move over to mine. And as you can see, we've got the map. Well, now we've set sail. So we
so
are.
down. That's a good
uh,
image. That's
yeah.
clean.
Yeah, it is. But we are setting sail for my power rankings, Casino. My number 10 pick, I agree with you. I think it's the Arizona Cardinals. I do, however, not understand how they have a defensive head coach and yet their team defense is, or their just defense in general, is bottom half of the league because the head coach was not a good defensive coordinator
Well,
when he
here's the
got.
thing: you can have a good coordinator, a good coach for a specific position. You still have to have the players.
Yeah, but they had the Eagles where 2 years ago his defense was like 30th in the league, and now all of a sudden they're a top 5 defense with basically the same players. And now the Cardinals are 21st basically across the board in terms of total defense. So, how their head coach is a defensive coordinator and they have bad defense, I don't understand. But what they do have is good offense. Like Kyler Murray, you said it, James Conner. I really like Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. And then that tight end, the McBride guy, just came out of nowhere. He didn't come out of Eastbound and Down Casino. That's a different guy. But this guy,
Great,
just
great, great show.
that is a great show. But yeah, so Arizona Cardinals, very feisty. I wouldn't even say sneaky. I'd say feisty. And I feel like they're in every game. A team you actually left off your top 10, Casino. I am picking the Atlanta Falcons. to be my number 9 team. Uh, I still think
Too
this.
hot, too cold. Too hot, too cold.
Yeah. And again, much like the Cardinals, I don't trust their defense at all because they're actually worse than the Cardinals defensively, but offensively, I still like their playmakers better than the Cardinals. So if these two teams played in like a wild card matchup, I would pick the Falcons, but I wouldn't be confident in this pick. I think if these two played right now, it'd be a tight match. But yeah, I like the Falcons. I like Kirk Cousins now becoming primetime Kirk Cousins, and he's actually looked pretty good on this team. When Bijan Robinson and what is it? Kyle Pitts actually play. They are some of the best in the league. Just again, what you said, hot and cold, very inconsistent. Speaking of inconsistent, my number 8 team, the Minnesota Vikings, Casino. Because when we talk about the Minnesota Vikings, the thing we keep saying about them is they started off really hot, and then their past couple weeks have just been kind of like, is the bloom off the rose? Is Sam Darnold still the Sam Darnold we saw in the first month of the season, where he was legitimately an MVP candidate? Now it's kind of just like, I mean, he's struggling. He's thrown 3 red zone interceptions against the Jaguars. Now he plays the Titans this week, like a 2-7 team. If he has another rough game, will everybody all of a sudden jump off the Vikings bandwagon? We don't know. But next up, my number 7 team, Casino, is the Los Angeles Chargers.
You moving there? You pushing them up? You like
Yeah.
them? You like them? Like them?
I do like them. And what I do like is when you watch this team play, they have as impressive a defense as anybody in the league. Their defense is lights out. I mean, what is it? In that Chiefs game, the Chiefs came back on them, but for most of that game, almost until the fourth quarter, they kept the entire Chiefs offense basically in check. When these Chargers defense is on the field, I think you could make the argument that they have the best defense in the league. And then offensively, I mean, they're 26 in the league in offense, but that's because they just kind of grind you out and kind of grind you down and control the clock and don't really try to do any fireworks offensively. But again, Justin Herbert sneaky having one of the best seasons of his career.
I'm in suspense right now. Like, is the Steelers or the Commanders not making the cut?
Well, we're about to see. But 66% completion percentage, 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception for Herbert. And then I like Gus Edwards and Josh Dobbins. So I don't know if I trust the Los Angeles Chargers receiving weapons, but their quarterback and running back, I mean, who do you not trust? Next up, so let's see, that's 10, 9, 8, 7. My number 6 team, Casino, is the Washington Commanders.
So you do not have the Steelers on your list.
I mean, we'll see. But the Washington Commanders, Casino, what is it? They are my number. What did I just say? 5?
I don't know. Do a reverse count there.
10, 9, 8, 7. So they're my number 6 team. And I'm just now realizing what team I left off my list, Casino.
So you did what I did last week.
I pulled a U. But you know what? I'll just say they're tied. So my number my number 6 team, these are all correct. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 is correct. But I think the Washington Commanders. Now, the thing we do need to do at the Washington Commanders is pump the brakes. Okay, they're a very good team. I'm not saying that. Their record is outstanding. Their quarterback is playing well. Okay, but we need to stop. I'm literally seeing discussions happen on sports shows where they're like, I mean, the Eagles haven't played anybody like Jaden Daniels all season, and he's gonna.
Okay,
and it's
well,
just
that's different.
They played Joe Burrow and gave him his worst quarterback rating of the year, the guy who has thrown 5 touchdown passes in multiple games this season. So let's pump the brakes. Joe Burrow is a much better quarterback than Jaden Daniels is right now. But as far as the Commanders go, I like their offense. I don't love it outside of McLaurin. I don't know who they have on offense, but defensively is where I think is going to be the real issue because you can pass on this team, much like the Baltimore Ravens with them, but their offense is dynamic. I really think Dan Quinn as their head coach, it kind of has that same Dan Campbell feel where the team feels like they're playing for him and they're tough because he's tough. So yeah, I like everything you see there. Number 5, Casino. I like everything you say. I'm just saying pump the brakes a little. A little. Next up, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Or
Casino.
are they the team that you're actually putting together or no?
No, I'm still going a little bit further. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, we say this every week. You and I were wrong when we said putting in Russell Wilson was a mistake because it looks like not only was that not a mistake, it was actually the right move at the right
Well,
time.
it wasn't just us. It was literally every single person on any sort of sports show out there said the
Yeah,
same thing. So you got to tip your hats off to Coughlin because he knew something.
yeah,
Or uh, White
Tomlin.
Egg. Thank you, Tomlin, Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
You got to tip your hats off to him because he knew, and that's what makes you a good coach. That's what makes you a coach that has never had a losing season. Is you can make decisions like that, where everybody's against it. And he was like, no, this is what's going to happen and we're going to win. And boom, like outstanding,
yeah.
outstanding coaching. Like, oh, he's such a good coach, dude.
But now, see, though, the interesting thing about the Steelers, shockingly, Casino, I was about to say, when it comes to the Steelers, can you guess the only 2 losses they have on the season? They're 7-2 right now. Can you guess the 2 teams they lost to?
No, I honestly couldn't even think about it.
They lost in week 4 and 5 to the Colts and the Cowboys, which seems just that's crazy for that to be their 2
Two
losses on the
losses.
season. When the teams they beat have been the Falcons, the Broncos, the Chargers, the Jets, the Commanders. So they've beaten
You throw the
all the
Jets out of there. That's a good group 4.
yeah, every team they've beaten has either been a bottom tier team or a playoff team, and they've basically killed all the bottom tier teams. So, yeah, weird. Steelers having a weird season, but it looks like it's right on track right now. And again, those are the only 2 games they lost. So they're 7-2 with a schedule that gets a little dicey in week 15, 16, 17, but I'm still interested. Next up, Casino. My number, what is it? 3 or my number 4 team is where I would put the other team. I would put these 2 teams neck and neck. The team I left off is the Baltimore Ravens. I forgot to put them on my countdown. So yeah, so I would put both the Ravens and the Eagles at my number 4 spot. Ravens, obviously, because the defense, we've gone ad nauseum about that. And then the Eagles, the last month of the season, I believe, they are almost number 1 in every defensive category. Now, again, you can say, oh, it's who they're playing and all that kind of stuff. But also, you only play who's on the schedule. And again, Joe Burrow against every team in the league is throwing 4 or 5 touchdown passes. When he played the Eagles with a fully healthy offense, he had his lowest completion percentage, quarterback rating, yards, pretty much everything across the board. And they lost that game by 20 points. So
Oof.
again, yeah, I think the Giants game was really the Cleveland Browns game after the bye. That was where it was like, oh my God, is this team just bad? Like what is happening? And then since then, they've blown out the Giants 28-3. They've blown out the Bengals 37-13. They technically didn't blow out the Jaguars, but again, you watch that game, the fumble was the bullshit in that game. And then they blew out the Cowboys, and now they have the Commanders tonight. So this is the hard stretch of their schedule, week 11 through about week 16.
So
So
let me
the
ask you: do you think if either one of these teams win tonight, do either of them fall out of your top 10?
No, I think if
Same.
I think the only thing that would change is if Commanders get, like, absolutely blown out, which obviously I don't think they will, but I think then we have to seriously have a discussion about, like, will the Commanders' defense be as detrimental as the Ravens' defense is to it, but their offense isn't as dynamic to make up for it, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Right. I
But
mean, but still a positive season for Washington in general. Like you didn't expect this.
yeah,
Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback. Now you can build. But
I
Washington did it. Washington did it so right. Is they cleaned house. They
yeah,
got from owner, general manager, all the way down to coach to quarterback. They switched it all.
yeah,
So
and it worked, and it all
but it
worked.
worked. It really worked.
Yeah. I really think the difference tonight is if Commanders or Eagles, if one of the teams beats the other one, the swing will probably be around like 10 points, let's say. If this is a 10-point game for either team, I honestly think they would just switch places. Or if Commanders win, they'd be where Eagles are. If Eagles win, they probably move up to third probably on my power rankings list, unless they, again, if the Eagles blow out the Commanders, then I think you have to start having real discussions about them being potentially the best team of the league. But we move on, and again, Ravens were also supposed to be right here, tied for number 4. Their defense does worry me. It always worries me, and every week it kind of gives you reason to be worried for it, because again, they're giving
Definitely.
up just Joe Burrow alone this year has thrown 10 touchdowns against the Ravens, and they've only played twice. So that's crazy.
That's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah. Next up, my number 3 team, Casino. I am putting the Buffalo Bills, same spot you have them. This does, again, at the beginning of the season, I was like, this is the last year for the
Don't do
Bills
it.
until the window's closed. They're 8
Don't
and 2.
don't do it.
Much better. We'll
Are you
get
gonna
to
finish that
our
for me? Don't do it.
don't give you hope.
Don't give me hope.
But yeah, Bills are 8 and 2. And what's also really impressive about the Bills is they're on a 5-game win streak, and Josh Allen necessarily hasn't played that well in those 5 games. But they're still, I mean, annihilating other teams, blowing
Good
out other
teams find
teams.
ways to win.
They finally feel like they have a running game. And yeah, it's just now, again, the only thing that scares me about Buffalo is the only 2 times they've lost this season have been to really the only 2 good teams they've played. So they lost to the Ravens and Texans back to back. The rest of their schedule, I mean, again, they almost lost to the Cardinals week 1. That's the only other quote unquote good team they played. So now it's nut up or shut up
Yeah,
time
like I
because
said last week, they've got the hardest. They've got a hard remaining schedule left, and now let's see if they can handle it.
yeah, they go Kansas City, 49ers, Rams, Lions, back to back to back to back. So that's really much like the Eagles next 5 weeks. The next month is where we see how legit the Bills and Eagles really are. But now, Casino, we switch back to your number, or no, we still go, yes, to your number 2 team, which we've hit land, Casino. We've hit
That
land
we
on where
have.
we're going. And your number 2 team, this isn't even going out on a limb because I did it last week. So you're kind of just copying me when saying the Chiefs aren't the best team, the Lions are, but make the case.
Make the case. Outside of a Denver player falling over, like come on, this team should not be undefeated. This team should not be undefeated. The non pass interference call against the Falcons, like I could go on and on about this team. An inch in the first game with
And
the
you know how
Ravens. Like
important an inch is. You
I
know how
do.
important.
It's
Yeah.
like this team can barely hold on, and I just don't think that it's going to last. I know they have a great defense, but defense tires out as you go later into the season. You need to also it needs to be balanced to where your offense can stay on the field, to give your defense a break. And I don't trust Patrick Mahomes going down the stretch.
Ooh. Yeah. And well, this week, and again, we'll see with the Chiefs and the Bills game. If Chiefs lose that game, then I think the real questions come in about like how legit are they and will they repeat and blah 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 blah
Well,
blah.
no, they are a good team, and do they have a legitimate shot of repeating? Oh, yeah. But, I mean, you have these other 4 teams, as you put it in your bubble last week, that there's 4 teams that have a legitimate shot on winning the Super Bowl this year. And,
They're
those
one of
other
them. Yeah.
yeah, they're one of them, and those other 3 teams, though, they seem to have the edge on KC if they went head to head, and we're gonna see one of them this weekend.
Yeah. So my number 2, much like Casino, I am sticking with the Chiefs being number 2. We're looking for the treasure Casino. But it's not the Chiefs at the moment. At least in the AFC, it's the treasure. But in the NFC, obviously, if we both have the Chiefs at 2, the number 1, the treasure on top of the mountain, it's the Detroit Lions. We found the treasure Casino. We found it, and it's the Lions. The Lions are the best team right now.
That's a lot of pieces of 8.
uh, as Casino has said, good teams find ways to win. And there is no better example of that than your quarterback throwing 5 interceptions in a game and still winning, which again is as impressive as it is stupid. Like that's just dumb. But Lions right now, 15th in the league in total defense, 13th in the league in total offense, 18th in the
And,
league in
and they
pass.
did, and it's not only did they didn't do that against a mediocre team. They did that against
The
or a
Tex-
bad team. They did it against the Texans, who have a good season, um, on the road, like in Texas. They did
yeah,
that. Like, that is insane.
on Sunday night, it's prime time. Like all eyes are on you. Yeah. So not only where they did it, but how they did it. And then this team again, they're gonna get 3 cupcakes in a row the next 3 weeks. It's Jags, Colts, Bears, who I think 2 of those are at home. So I think all 3 of those should be blowout wins, kind of get back on track to just being the dominant team you have been all season. And then you end the season with Packers, Bills, Bears, Niners, Vikings. So most of these teams, again, they're just going to have a month of the next 2 months of the season. They are going to have 1 month where it's like, prove to us that you're as good as we think you are.
Yeah, and you know what though? That is gonna prime them for the postseason.
Yeah. Well, especially with how close the standings are with the Packers and Vikings. Like they play the Packers and Vikings again. So all those games are going to matter for it's going to be literally the difference between a 4th seed and your number 1 home first round bye, everything like that. So at the moment, Casino and I both agree on our top 3, which is Lions 1, Chiefs 2, Bills 3. But if Bills, let's say in Fantasyland Casino, the Bills come out and just annihilate the Chiefs and blow them out by 3 touchdowns. I think at that point, you would have to really have a conversation of, are the Bills the best team in the league? Will that
No,
happen?
I would no. They would be behind the Lions still. The Lions don't lose. I mean, they have 1 loss on them. No, it would the Lions are the best team in the league until they lose to one of those good teams.
Yeah. And the only loss they have was against a good team, which was the Buccaneers when they were red hot. So,
When Baker Mayfield had both of his weapons,
yeah.
had all 3 of his weapons.
And so this has been the Only Sports Podcast Power Rankings, Pirate Edition. I'll try to think of themes to do this. You know how I love my themes, Casino.